Good day, everyone. Welcome to the world of the International Fab Talks. Fab Talks is that platform open to all the global citizens across the world, irrespective of profession, class, caste, creed, gender, geographical locations. All are welcome to the International Fab Talks to share their journey with us and to share their professional expertise. Except religion and politics, we discuss all of the topics on the International Fab Talks. And today is a fabulous day. Guess why? We have a wonderful celebrity guest who's joining us all the way from Johor Bahru, Malaysia. If I'm getting that word right, if I'm not getting it right, kindly forgive me. We're having our guest joining us all the way from Malaysia. She is none other than Miss R.R. Manjari. She is connected with the psychological aspects and she's a professional in this domain for more than 30 years, that is more than 3 decades. Let's get to know about certain psychological tips, how to keep ourselves happy, how to be in that space to keep smiling in spite of all the odds, in spite of all the difficulties that we face. Let's say hello to our guest and begin the journey on the International Fab Talks. Hello, ma'am, and welcome to the session. Thank you, Manjari, ma'am, for being here with us. Thank you so much.
Hi, Andrea. Hello, everyone.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Allow me to share your profile and then we begin the journey. Thanks, dear. So, dear friends, I share the profiles of all our celebrity guests at the start itself. And so I take the privilege to share the profile of our celebrity who's here with us. She's none other than Miss R.R. Manjari, as I earlier mentioned. She is a chartered psychologist with over 3 decades of clinical, academic, and administrative experience who works with children, adolescents, the adults, from different multi-ethnic and multicultural backgrounds. So here is the catch. You see, dear friends, it's not working only for the privileged or the underprivileged. It's like working for one and all. Now to focus on these two words very nicely, these two phrases, multi-ethnic and multicultural backgrounds. I really love this. So we're going to discuss more on this, my dear friends. She is a consultant psychologist, to put it right. She is a consultant clinical psychologist practicing at hospitals in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. Let's get to know more about her journey as to what she's been doing all these years, how many people she's helped, and do people come forward to take help or are they hesitating even today in the 21st century? Let's get to know all about it from our celebrity guest. Hello, ma'am, and welcome to the session. Thank you so much for your presence over here. Ma'am, the first
Uh,
question I'd love to ask you. Yes, dear, please. Sorry for interrupting.
no. Please go ahead, Andrea. Just call me Manjari, please. I think I'll be
Yeah,
more
definitely,
comfortable.
Manjali. Thank
Yes.
you for that. You also
Yeah.
instructed me earlier, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, dear.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm into this practice, as you mentioned, 30 over years, and the reason that I actually started this, I actually studied psychology because I have always been interested in this concept of mind. The mind is a powerful tool. I think a lot of people do not recognize that. And the many aspects of mind, I think that definitely fascinated me. And I have always had this motive in life, right from childhood days, I guess. Maybe it came from my parents to help people. So it can be, charity, or it can be helping somebody with whatever, that little bit knowledge or little bit of help that I could or I can, I'm still doing. So that is how the psychology started. And I've actually subspecialized in mental retardation. So that's how I work in a hospital setup, and I'm into clinical practice, and I was into teaching also. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. Thank you, Manjari. Yeah, I have to change that to Manjari, right?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
So, Manjari, I'd love to know, like, you see now you've already completed 30 years in this field.
Hmm.
Is it easier now to get connected with various people and create awareness and, give them the right kind of, the expertise that you have with you, that you've cultivated all through these years? Or was it easier earlier? And I think I have the answer with me. I believe I have the answer, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Okay, I think 30 years back, because I'm in a country like Malaysia, and people know me in Malaysia, you know. And when I started, I think there was awareness, but I think the awareness at that time and now is definitely different. But I can also say, I mean, in a positive way or maybe on the other hand, I wouldn't say negative, but it's a bit of a conflicting and confusing way, maybe. The reason I will explain, okay? The reason is, see, if you don't know something, I think it's easy to make you understand, it's easy to explain to you, teach you, educate you. But if you know bits and pieces and from somewhere you picked it up, and it's like, I know something, but I'm not sure what it is, then that becomes a problem sometimes. Because just to give you an example, I do have patients in my clinic um, who come, especially say anxiety patients, right? Um, they come with a lot of Google information because we are living in a world like that. And I'm not saying it's wrong, right? We all have this thing like social media. We want to look up, we want to see. But what is happening is that they come with this information saying that this is what happened to me. I went on to Google, I did some test or assessment or whatever, and that's how I got this diagnosis. So it's a self-diagnosed type of a thing, right? And from there, even if they have anxiety, that anxiety doubles up or aggravates. So the problem is actually aggravated. And whatever information that they are getting from different sources, because we have different sources now, right? It is adding to the existing problem. So by the time they come to get help, it's a full blown problem, and it becomes sometimes difficult to break that type of information feed that they are getting. So again, just to give you an example, first thing I've requested all my patients not to Google information about their condition, especially like anxiety and all that, because they come and they just, they want to just, literally vomit there. So I have requested, please do not read. And the perception is something that is um, can be misleading, I guess, you know. So that is that's what is happening. So the awareness that we are creating, because I used to do even COVID time a lot of online awareness programs and things like that. The awareness is happening now. So that's why right at the beginning I said it's positive. On the other side, it can become conflicting, confusing, but there are also people who are specifically coming and saying that I want psychotherapy, I want a specific psychotherapy. So that knowledge also is there. So, I mean, I'm happy about that, and I feel it is a positive move, in creating that awareness for people. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Manjari. Manjari, now you see you are into this field for more than 3 decades.
Mhm.
Let me know, like, if men come forward more or women. And I should add this: the third gender, do they also come in for consultation?
Of course, yes. Um, well, it depends actually on the problem. Yeah, women, yes, I think they came forward. But again, I don't want to say women are coming like forward easily and men are not, or vice versa. I'm not saying that. But I think both genders, and we also have others, and we do give importance to the others also. They're also actually coming forward. Um, so, and again, in a clinical practice, we treat everybody equally. We respect, we accept the person as he or she is, and there is no problem about treatment. So whoever comes. And Malaysia is a country where we have different races, different religions. We have people from the Europe, Western countries. Things like that. Yeah.
Yes, dear. Manjri, I'd love to know now about multi-ethnic and multicultural people who
Hmm.
come forward, to avail your services. You've been dealing with them. Like, if you
Yeah.
can, because many of them, like, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that many of the people out there are very simple and quite unaware as to what these two terms mean. That is
Hmm.
multi-ethnic and multicultural. If you can just simplify that for us and then go ahead with how you're dealing with these groups of.
Okay. I think sometimes these terms are interchanged or how shall I say, connected or interused maybe. But again, well, multicultural or multi-ethnic, when I say it is like, for example, I'm Indian, so I come from the Indian background, the tradition, the culture. So if I'm an Indian, whether I'm able to only handle my my race or my cultural type of people, or other races, other religions, other cultures, like for example, if there is a person like a Chinese national or Chinese, because in Malaysia we also have local Chinese, we have Malays who are basically they follow Islam. Um, so we also have Westerners. So like people coming from the US, UK, from the Netherlands, from Europe, different parts of the globe basically. So the culture that they come with, whether it is, see, okay, let me put it this way. Maybe when I'm in practice, right, this is something that we learn as part of our curriculum and our syllabus at uni level. We are supposed to accept anyone in our clinic as they are. So no questions asked, no non-judgmental basically type of treatment that we are supposed to give. So anybody who walks in, um, it's actually a bit funny. Maybe if you don't mind, I just want to share with you so that people will know what actually happens in a treatment setup. Um, you know, I had this person and from the West, and that person is a Christian, you know. But it is so obvious that that person actually asked me whether I'm a Hindu or whether I'm a Christian or what is it, because it's so important for the person who's getting help to know the therapist or the psychologist. And it's okay for me to share, there's nothing wrong, because for the person it is important to build the rapport, build the connection, because only then I can talk to somebody, right? Like if I'm talking to Andrea, I should have that connection. I should be comfortable, right? But for that person, the person actually wanted a confirmation that whether my cultural beliefs, my the ethics, my values, my race, my religion is going to clash with that person's or not. So this is what happens, right? So when we are talking about a culture, so that means they come from different backgrounds, different beliefs, different upbringing, right? Different ethnicity, like they are born in a different country, but they have moved to another country. Also, you must remember there is something known as um, cultural identity. I can also give you an example. There was this child who was brought to me about 15 years old, again from the West. And this child was lost because the parents were traveling and they were moving every 1 to 2 years. So when her friends asked, sorry, I had to say the gender. So when her friends actually asked, she belongs to which culture, what is her cultural identity, she's lost. So that cultural identity is important, you see. So otherwise, I don't know where do I belong. I don't know what do I follow. Okay, so that is what we are trying to do, and we have to also make them comfortable that, so in that particular case I had to assure this person that whatever my beliefs, my cultural background, my tradition, my whatever is not going to affect that person's beliefs or that person, because it's a purely professional relationship. So my beliefs, my everything, it's put at bay, and it cannot clash with that person's. That's how it works. So, and that's how I can deal with so many that multi-ethnic or multicultural background people. Otherwise, it's not easy. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, dear. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. That's really great. Thank you so much. Now, Manjali, what I'd like to ask you is like about your practice. Do you practice even online? Do you have, people who could connect with you online, or only you have an offline practice?
I do online sessions. I use Teams because in therapy sometimes, depending on what therapy, we do have like homework assignments and things like that. So I do Teams, and I can leave things on Teams. Of course, earlier I was using Skype, but soon Skype is merging with Teams from May. So I'm using Teams now. Um, well, if not Teams, Google Link or Google Meet, or sometimes I even use my clinic phone, to have a video call and things like that. Yes, I do online sessions.
Well, Manjari, what I'd like to ask you is, being a woman, is it easy to be in the profession that you are in, or did you face certain challenges because you belong to a certain, gender?
Um, I think, in my understanding, from what I have seen, from my experience, I hope I'm right in this. I think a lot of therapists, um, psychologists, or even counselors, I think, in my experience, have been ladies. I mean, the female gender. Again, I'm not saying there are no male or others as therapists, but this is what I have seen. I have also seen a couple of male therapists. Did I face any difficulties? Um, no, I don't think so. But well, was it easy? It was, well, it was easy sometimes. It was not easy sometimes. There were challenges, a lot of challenges. Because, okay, I'm in private practice, so there is a lot of difference in Malaysia if you look at it, in private practice and in public sector. Um, I worked in public sector long back, but the problem is that public sector is, the patient load is quite high, and how many people are there to actually provide those services? Likewise, in private sector also, yes, the workload can be high. Did I say public earlier? I can't remember. Okay, public, I think the workload can be high, and to get an appointment is difficult. Likewise, in private also, the load can be high. But I think compared to public sector, private sector, I think is easy. The only problem is in private sector is the payment, the financial part of it, because um, like how much each session is going to cost, and whether the person can pay or not, and especially in Malaysia, um, whether the mental health services are covered by insurance or not. Only recently, some insurance companies are covering mental health, some problems, not all. So otherwise, it's all cash paying patients, and it is not, it's not cheap, and it's not like a one-off session. You need to have a couple of sessions like on a weekly basis, and it can go on sometimes for months. And whether the person, the patient, can be with you, for a long period or not, and that is where the recovery is. you know so this can become some sort of an obstacle. Yeah.
Yes, dear. Now, Manjri ma'am, there are many people who cannot, segregate or maybe try to differentiate between mental health and well-being. Are they both connected and the same thing, or mental health is something and well-being is something, or are they synonym terms? What is it? If you can just clarify that for us.
Okay, in my understanding, I think they are again interchangeably used, because nowadays, if you see, it comes together, mental health and well-being. That this is what I have heard a lot of times. Yes, mental health issues, mental health problems, mental health treatment, but nowadays it's mental health and well-being. So yes, mental health is a problem, and well-being is the other side of the story. Like, how do
Are
you
there
want to
two
take
sides
care
of
of?
the same coin? You could say something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah,
just I just shared that idea.
sure, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we can say that, because I mean, when we have a problem, we are looking for solutions, right? So I think maybe that's where this thing stemmed from. I'm not sure, I'm just guessing. But yes, I have heard this together. Yeah.
Now, ma'am, the mental health sector or the mental health domain is really like an ocean. The more you go deeper into it, the more you have to, learn and understand things in order
Mm-hmm.
to get to know about your own self first. You may be a
Yeah,
psychologist, you may be a doctor, an engineer. I
sure.
mean, it is so vast and so deep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of improvement in this field with regard to mental health.
Sure, sure.
Now, ma'am, what I'd like to ask you is like, what are your future plans and what is on your bucket list? I mean, do you plan to come to different countries and share your expertise, or are you very comfortable in Malaysia where you are? You have something on your bucket list, attending conferences and attending different types of platforms, where they give access uh, to people like you,
Mm-hmm.
to create awareness, because many of them
Sure.
still, it's just only the cream layer who get access to a clinical psychologist or maybe a
Yeah,
mental health advocate or something like that. But many of them
sure,
are just neglected. Over to
sure.
you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I do attend conferences and I give talks. I do a lot of workshops locally. I also do for the corporate sector and all that. I have traveled overseas also for conferences. Yes. Um, well, if there is a conference in India, I don't mind attending. But I have traveled overseas, like even UK or the neighboring countries like Indonesia or where else did I go? Yeah. Anyway, generally I travel. Um, but yeah, to create awareness, I think it's still happening because I do work with a lot of NGOs and some overseas organizations. We do have online workshops, online talks, um, which which has been going on even like before COVID. Of course, during COVID we went online more, I think. But my side, I think I started long ago before COVID, which is still continuing. Yeah.
Yes, Manjri, thanks for sharing that. Now, what I'd love to know is, you see, many of the victims or many of the patients who suffer from psychological implications, they don't have support from their family members, the right kind of support. Maybe one parent
Hmm.
supports or one member in the family supports them and the others don't. So if a person is really into that mental trauma or in that
Hmm.
space where he or she suffers psychologically and emotionally, don't you think the family has a vast role to play in bringing back the person to normalcy? Don't put the entire burden on a clinical psychologist or on a psychologist. We do need the support of family, friends, acquaintances to bring
Hmm.
back that person and make him or her live a normal and stable life.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I guess in even like therapy, how it works is if it is a child, of course, obviously the family members, mother, father, siblings, whoever are involved in the therapy process. Likewise, if it is an adult, if it's say a young adult, maybe his or her partner is involved. So the family members, some sort of support is always there, and we do educate the person, and the education, I mean psychoeducation, helps the person to understand this patient's problems and what type of support that they can provide. And the support sometimes can be or should not become like you know like a enabling behavior, like a negatively enabling behavior. And we should also educate the caregiver or the care provider um, to help the patient to become independent. So again, the care provider has to become aware of his or her moods and also be aware of the patient's moods, patient's emotions and feelings, um, the expectations, because we are all human beings, we are all made up like this, right? And only only at that time, I think we will be able to have that type of a connection or a bond where both parties can work together. Because a lot of people, like, I mean, although there is awareness, more awareness, I think that's being created, I think, all over the globe. um, some people are still saying, like, I have even seen parents, I'm sorry, I'm not against anybody, But I have even seen like parents, saying that, oh, it's all in your mind. You just get over it. It can happen. It happened to me. I got over it. This is still happening. But I think the current situation is different, maybe from the previous times. Um, Maybe the coping mechanism was different compared to the previous times. Well, there is help available compared to the previous times. I think if it is okay, maybe I would request, please give them help. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really nice. Please come forward and help your family members, friends, acquaintances, etc., to come back and live a normal life in the society. Now, ma'am, certain patients or certain individuals have been institutionalized,
Hmm.
and there are quite a few famous film stars who have been institutionalized in
Hmm.
some Western countries,
Hmm.
and they have not returned in a stable condition. Some of them have met their tragic end as well.
Hmm.
So, would you like to share something about this?
Yeah. Okay, there are famous celebrities, film personalities, I think again across the globe, whether it's Hollywood, Bollywood, Tollywood, whatever would. Yeah, they do have, or they did have mental health or psychological issues. But again, some of them I think made it, some of them are still in the process of recovery. Some people are not able to manage, some people are hooked on to um, substance. I don't want to mention anybody's names, but I think a lot of people know. Why they're not able to get out of it or get over it is a big question mark, because we have to take into consideration a lot of um, like background information. What is the support system? What are they looking for? Why they're not able to cope with it? Is there anything else that is adding on to the existing problem? What are the triggers? What are the factors? So it's not an easy thing, right? And this is not a physical problem like, I got a scratch here, I'm going to put an ointment or a bandage or something. And yes, after 3, 4 days, there is guarantee that, it's going to heal. And yeah, you may have a small scar or a bruise, but it's going to disappear. This is something that's there in your mind. Sometimes it actually puzzles me that a lot of people don't know the difference between brain and mind.
Yes. Manjari, now I'd like to bring your attention to this. You see, when I personally face any stress, I don't share it with any of my family members or friends or anyone. I start getting some pain over here like this, or I get pain behind my,
Hmm.
over here behind my head, like, maybe down my neck at the back behind. Or recently, I just had some pain like this. It was just a troubling pain. Took quite some time. I knew I was thinking something very deeply, and like it was with my sister, and I was like wanting to patch up with her. Like we had an argument, and after a good cry on my own, of course, I didn't connect with her, nor she connected with me. After a good cry, I felt a lot of relief from that pain,
Hmm.
right? And initially, I could not explain why I had that pain suddenly. But then after that, then I sat down to myself and I was like thinking, what's troubling me? What is it at the back of my mind? Then I understood, okay, this is the reason. And then I gave a good cry. I thought that she would connect and so on. So when you cry, you let out the toxins from your body.
Hmm.
Like, do you agree with this? Being a clinical psychologist, do you think crying could bring a lot of changes in you? So if you feel like crying, please do cry, no matter where the place is. Cry and let it out, then holding on to it, which will again, you know, snowball into something else, and then you really
Hmm.
go into clinical depression, and where you really suffer more, you'll have to go in for medication, etc. It's
Hmm.
good to nip it at the bud. You feel like expressing something, do express it in an appropriate way. What do you have to share about this?
Okay. I think crying is okay, I think, to some extent. But again, see, in my clinic, I also have patients, and I can see, okay, it can be maybe a little bit of experience that I have, maybe. Um, I can see that they want to cry, but they are holding it there. But it's okay for me to see, observe, take a note of it, but I'm not like saying that, oh, I think you want to cry. It's okay, cry, 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 cry. I'm not saying that, right? But when they want to let it out, they let it out and they are comfortable to let it out because they feel it's a comfortable environment. Nobody is judging me because the therapy is basically a non-judgmental type of a thing, right? Now, whether the crying is a good way of dealing with a problem, um, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say like 100% it's a good way, but like what you said, like if you had the differences like between you and your sister, I think I would encourage you to talk it out. I think I mean, now we have different modes, right, of communication. You can text, but again, text can be perceived in a different way. You know, you put
Very
an emoji like a thumbs up is like, oh, what is a thumbs up? That means you go ahead, or is it good, or is it like, okay, fine. So, I mean, it's wrongly interpreted. But I think given a chance, maybe pick up the phone and try to talk to her, ask her, hey, are you available for a call? You know, a brief call. It's fine, it's enough. Or even if it's not happening, we also have an audio message, right? If you, it's okay for me to say, she's my sister, I love her so much. And it's okay for me to say, hey, I'm so sorry if I've hurt you. It can be a friend, it can be a husband, it can be your in laws, it can be mom, dad, anybody, right? But again, why I'm saying crying may not be the solution all the time is because sometimes, because this is psychological, right? Yes, you have emotions, you have feelings, but the psychologically, like your mind is saying that, oh, okay, I have learned a new technique. When I'm stressed, I must cry, I must let it out. But do I also want to look at other ways of dealing with the stress? Is there any other way of dealing with stress? Yes, crying is easy. I'm not charged for this. Nobody is nobody is asking for a fee, right? I can go into the toilet, turn on the tap, and I can cry. Oh, I can do whatever. Nobody is going to see me, right? But is there anything I can do? When I'm stressed, can I go for a jog? Can I go for a walk? Can I listen to music? Right? Can I write down my thoughts? Can I write down my emotions, my feelings? Maybe it will calm me down. There are so many different ways because I'm not saying it should not be like crying, but it can be more than crying. That's all I'm saying. Because I would look at it like maybe my mind is getting used to this method of releasing that stress or the tension or whatever. Okay, I cried, I let it out, I'm okay already. You know, so do I want to look at it? Because see, this is the point that I'm trying to make. We are all human beings, okay? And every minute, every second, we are learning new things. Until I'm in the grave, I'm learning. Every behavior is a learned behavior. Everything is a learned behavior, and every day I'm learning. I always say this, I'm actually thankful to my patients because I'm learning so much from them. Whatever I studied is one side of the story. The other side of the story is when I'm in clinic, I'm learning so much from my patients and I'm always grateful to them because this is what I'm seeing in their behavior. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manjari. See, you've made me now start thinking, you see, because I'm that type of a person. I think many of them, like me, would be there. The way I do and conduct myself sometimes, that is like cry. Any incident, cry. And after crying, I feel really good. I take a deep breath and like, I can breathe in more air and I can really feel good. I look good. I feel good after crying. Otherwise, I'll be grumpy, I will be sad, and they can see the pain in my eyes, in my face, until I let it out, and then I'm fine. So I think the way you helped me now, and you have helped others as well if they view this, like, is there any other outlet to let this pain and suffering go or this misunderstanding go? Write it down, go for a walk, listen to music. Don't only think of one thing is to cry. There are different ways to release that stress within you. That's what you were sharing. Am I right, ma'am?
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
thank you very much. You've opened a new world for me and for others as well. Thank you so much. Now, this time, if I face anything, you see, I'm not going to cry and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to try out one of the things that you've shared. I'm going to try that. Even my younger son says, Mama, you don't cry in front of me. You do anything, but you should not cry. I should not see you crying again, he says. Because every now and then I tear up for anything. Even looking at somebody else crying, I will cry. Seeing somebody suffering, I will cry. If, it's something like that. So maybe I've trained my mind like that, I guess, right? To cry
Mm-hmm,
for everything and release it. So there maybe I can go and help, or maybe I can
mm-hmm.
work it out in another way. So this you've really opened up something, you a magic box. Like, so let's stop crying and let
Okay,
not make others look at us crying and like sympathize sometimes or take advantage of us.
sure,
We become vulnerable when we cry in front of
sure.
others, especially in public spaces, etc.
Yeah,
Right? Over to you,
sure.
ma'am.
Yeah, no, just wanted to add, like when you were saying, crying is okay, right? Like, for example, if I'm really sad, okay, I mean, like, if you believe in God, you may want to stand in front of the altar and you are just thinking something and your tears may roll down because you are so much in maybe pain or you're so emotional or whatever. But okay, so like especially in clinical practice, so I do come across a lot of different types of patients because I work with a variety of patients starting from early intervention to about 80 or 85 years of demented or Alzheimer's patients, right? So it's a variety of patients, and some of them have, molest cases, sexual harassment, trauma. It is, sorry, it is so sad, But again, like what you mentioned, whether I empathize or whether I sympathize, I can sit down there and I can cry with the patient, but the minute I do that, I'm only sympathizing. I'm not empathizing. Does that mean that I don't feel anything for the patient? Yes, I do. But I'm there. My role is different. My role is there to support the patient. I cannot break down with the patient because the patient is already shattered, right? I'm there to support the patient. So, yes, I must know where to draw the line, be a professional, do my job, but at the same time, be there for the patient. So that is what I think I was trying to explain.
Yes, dear. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, Manjari. Thank you so much. You see, Manjari, today, earlier before I could start the session, I viewed a podcast where the mother purposely, injected her child with certain fluids to make the child sick and to avail certain benefits
Hmm.
from the government or maybe from the family or the government. That's a psychological defect. It was like quite horrifying when I heard this podcast. A mother constantly, making her child fall sick by injecting certain fluids in the child's body, or wanting the child to be sick.
Hmm.
Really scares us to death. Imagine what the mind can do. That's what I always
Yes.
think. What the mind can do. The most
Yeah.
dangerous thing and the best thing in the world is your mind. What do you
Sure.
have to say about it, ma'am, from all the experiences that you had?
Um, yeah, mind is definitely a powerful tool. I must agree with you. And that's how I got into this profession. Um, so mind can actually make you do wonders in a positive way and in a negative way, like what you have shared. But again, I don't think I can comment on these two cases that you have shared with me because I don't know the background and I'm not sure what happened to the mother, why she did that, what actually happened in the background. I don't know. Likewise, the lady uh, and the husband's case. So mind can manipulate you. That much I think is very clear. Like whatever we have discussed so far, also a lot of our psychological problems, I think, can be dealt with um, if you know how the mind works. Okay, like simple example. Say, for example, I'm driving to work, right? It's a very easy example, so I always give this. So I'm trying to reverse my car out of my porch or something like that, and instead of engaging reverse, I accidentally engage drive and I accelerate, and the car goes and hits something in front. So the damage is there, the car is damaged, the front, whatever is damaged, but I somehow go to work. So I come back home the next day, again I'm trying to get my car out because there's no time to repair the car, right? So that is the time the mind comes, mind as in your thought comes, because mind is, again, you must remember, thoughts are there, emotions are there, feelings are there, right? The thought comes and tells you, hey Manjari, are you sure you can reverse the car? You remember what happened yesterday? So my hand is on reverse, but I'm trying to engage. My hand doesn't move. I'm trying, it doesn't move. That is the time you know you are stuck and your mind has taken over. But if I can move it and I can reverse and I can drive, then I know I managed my that negative thought. Because we all get caught in this thing. Something happened because you remember I said earlier it's a learned behavior, right? The thought is teaching something, that it can be a positive thought or negative thought. Most of the time, the negative thoughts are the ones that are influencing you in a negative way. So whether you want to have the mind in your hand or you want to be in your mind's hands is the question. Yeah.
What I'd like to ask you now is, like, you see, certain people,
Mm-hmm.
let me put that right, like, there could be many of them who will relate to what I'm sharing, like impulsive,
Mm-hmm.
impulsive decision makers.
Yeah.
Like, suppose now you speak harshly to me, I block you immediately.
Yeah.
You speak harshly to me, I'm never going to talk to you again in my life.
Okay.
But I don't know the reason why you've been speaking to me like that. I don't know what's the
Mm-hmm.
reason. I don't even care to. It is me, I,
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
We have one category like this, like,
Mm-hmm.
immediately taking decisions on the spot, which is quite dangerous. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
good, sometimes it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen another group of people who, like, have always been giving all the time polite, all the time sacrificing,
Mm-hmm.
but getting nothing in the end. Nor good
Mm-hmm.
words, nor good, behavior, nothing. They don't get
Mm-hmm.
anything in return. So there are several people who have, connected with me and said, ma'am, we've been doing our very best, all positive from our end. And trust me, they have been doing very positively for all the people around them. But they've
Mm-hmm.
been taken for advantage, taken for a ride, taken for
Mm-hmm.
granted their goodness.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to share from your end with people who are extremely good to others, but get it on the wrong side when it's concerned with their life?
Okay. Um, I think we are talking about personality, right? We all have personalities, right? Like I'm talking to you, you have a personality. I can see, to some extent, you can see mine, how I talk, how I carry myself. I'm confident, not confident, right? So I think the first example or the instance that you gave about the impulsivity or impulsive behavior, it can be part of a personality trait. So why are they jumping to do things? Is it like because it's just their personality, or is it there is something to do with their any psychological problem, like are they anxious or something? So okay, let me give you this example. Nowadays we all live in the social media world. I actually have patients who are having this type of problems. They text somebody and they expect like that results immediately, and if they don't get a reply, why the person didn't reply, so they actually call the person to say, hey, I texted you but you didn't reply to my text, you know or like what you said is like, oh, the person doesn't like me. So where is the problem? Is it the problem like I have a problem or that person has a problem? Am I having oversensitivity or hypersensitive behavior, or the person doesn't really like me? So it can be a personality trait that's happening, or it can be more than a personality trait, can be some serious psychological problem, right? On the other hand, the second example that you gave, people are polite, people are nice, people are trying to help others, and things like that, and because of which they are taking advantage of these people. Okay, they are taken for a ride. So there is also this thing known as people pleaser, you know. So, like for example, Andrea is my friend, and Andrea is like constantly saying, "Hey, Manjuri, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Can you do that?" I'm like, "Yes, Andrea, I can do. No worries, no worries. It's late, but I can still do." You know. But I, at the back of my mind, there can be a thought that, "Hey, but Andrea is always like this. Why can't she do her work? Why is she telling me last minute?" Then I can also sort of counter that thought saying that, yeah, but it's okay. Andrea is my friend. It's okay. I can do it. I'm tired, but I can still do it. Right? So why am I doing this? Is it because I want Andrea to be my friend or I want to be her friend? If I don't help, help, she's going to cut me off. Am I trying to maintain the relationship? Is my esteem so low I don't respect myself? Am I not confident to make another friend? You see, all these things can be part of the personality also. Yeah.
Excellent, Manjri ma'am. That's really nice. You shared that so well. Now, there are many people who suffer silently and don't open their mouths and say or express themselves that they are under any sort of restraint by family members, friends, or maybe online scamming.
Hmm.
They will endure everything silently till it's a matter of life and death. Like, and if they have to choose between the two, they will choose to die.
Hmm.
How can we save such people?
Okay, so I think there are a lot of problems that are happening. I mean, it can be financial issues, it can be uh, marriage issues, it can be partners, it can be kids, so many issues. So I think the first thing is we have to reach out for help. I mean, if you ask me, this I think has happened. Recently actually, a lot of my patients with severe problems, like those who are suffering with borderline personality and all. A lot of people recently have spoken about suicide. It's really sad if you ask me. I'm like, you are here, you are getting help, you have to try some more, you can't give up, how much ever positive the vibes or energy that you pump in, it's not helping. So I think I can still say that we have to reach out for help. Suicide is not the solution, right? I think people are scared of what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen in society, what's going to happen, what are people going to think about me. But this is something, again, maybe adding to the stigma that people face every day. So the only solution is, of course, not death, definitely not. I think we have to reach out for help. So it can be a friend, it can be, I don't know, a local police station or police or cop, whoever, or it can be an NGO, it can be maybe I don't know, a newspaper channel or a news channel, I don't know, somewhere, somehow, something that we can do and save a life. Um, Recently, I actually had another person also, who kept saying that just give me a job and I'm going to be okay. But this person is actually having depression, major depression, and this person kept saying like just give me a job, I'm going to be fine. But again, you have to look at the background. I'm giving you a job, but can you maintain your job? Because the major depression problem is not sorted out. And when I encourage this person to go and get medication, get some help, refused, you see. So in such situations, I'm helpless. I don't know what to do next, because I spent 45 minutes on the phone, 1 hour on the phone, and explaining you can do this, do that, but it didn't help. I mean, I hope this person is safe somewhere still. Yeah.
Thanks, Manjri, for sharing that. Thank you for taking the pains to share all of that. That's really nice. Now you're connected with children, with adolescents and adults, etc. I'd like to talk about adolescents. You see, many of the adolescents or the adolescent stage, they suffer from bullying.
Mm-hmm.
which could really be disastrous or very
Sure.
tragic in the case of many students. Many students have faced it. Some of them fear going to college. Some of them fear taking admission in a particular college because ragging goes on, bullying goes on.
Yeah.
And the unsuspecting ones, the unsuspecting ones are bullied.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a lifelong impact. It could just
Yeah.
be a comment on the way you look, on the way your body frame is, or it could be more bizarre. And like physical, it could also be, as we've heard many cases like that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to give a message, being a clinical psychologist and connected with adolescents. I'd love you to give a message to all the adolescents, like, if you're facing anything like that, don't face it in silence. Speak up, reach out to people because they hesitate to speak, or maybe they are
Mm-hmm.
threatened or coerced into not opening their mouths by their by the perpetrators or the bullies. Over
Mm-hmm.
to you, ma'am. How would you like to share it from your end?
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of bullying is happening, actually from kindergarten or the nursery level itself, and it goes on until college or university. Because I think if a child has been bullied and the child's personality starts to develop or the identity starts to develop from a very young age, and the child is sort of conditioned, you know, to become like a person in that particular um, in that particular way, I would say. So I think first of all we should realize that a person who is trying to bully somebody or trying to become dominant or authoritative, we must remember or realize that that person actually has a problem. So it's not the person, it's not just the victim alone who needs help, it's also the bully who needs help. A lot of people, don't realize this and they think that, oh, that person is okay, that person doesn't need help. No, both parties need help because otherwise it's like I'm only focusing on the victim. And the victim can be moved from one school to another, to a uni or college or whatever. But what about this bully? The bully is still there, out there in the society. And if you don't give help to the bully, it can be disaster. It can be a disaster to that person itself. So I would say, please be brave, like what you said. You need to be brave. You need to have that courage to come forward and say, hey, this is happening, and stand up, in front of that bully and say, no way you're going to bully me. If the person is getting physical, of course, you don't have to get physical, but you have to report it to somebody, right? Sometimes it's okay to say, hey, I need help, and it's okay to shout for help, right? And of course, we do have, I think, disciplinary teachers in schools. We have like a school counselor, some authority where we can go and report. I think now we also have in schools these boxes. It's under lock and key, where only the authorities, school authorities, or they have access to it, where you can just put sort of a letter or something, and people can act on it. So yes, both parties need help.
Thank you, Manjari ma'am, for sharing all of that. That's really nice. You see, you're so therapeutic when you talk. You make us really feel good. That's really nice. Now, before we sum up the session, one last question and one last request. A message for all the teaching fraternity, the teaching staff members or the school and school management, like the staff and management, to put it right.
Okay.
Like,
Um. Yeah. Sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
please, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Um. Yeah. So the teachers, I think. Okay. Again, I have nothing against teachers, but I have also come across students who came to me and said a teacher was also a bully. I'm sorry I'm saying this, but I mean, if you ask me, teacher or teaching is such a noble profession. You are creating, you are producing those children who are going to be strong, responsible, independent individuals of tomorrow. And if a teacher bullies a child for whatever the reason, I think that's not reasonable. That's not accepted. But otherwise, yes, I think teachers should be given training or some sort of insights as to how to recognize if bullying is happening, if a child is having, uh, say, learning disability or emotional problems or psychological problems, problems at home with parents, um, abusive parents or argumentative parents. I think the teachers should be given some sort of training to understand what is happening to the child, because we are looking at a holistic development of the child, you know. And when I say holistic development, it is not just academics, it is much more than academics, right? If you look at the current trend, current world, and this is happening in Malaysia also, because I do, when I do workshops, a lot of children have said this, teachers have said this. I don't want to have grades. I don't want to have a certificate. I don't want a mark sheet which says I'm good or I'm bad. It is a tick or a cross, which is a genuine problem now. And I mean, I have actually discussed with a couple of authorities, actually locally also. Is there anything else that we can do? And this is happening all over the globe, right? People are not happy. On one side, we say that a child is differently abled, but we are still looking at academics are important. Yes, I do agree. You need a basic degree, that is going to get you, food to eat and things like that. But again, is there anything else that we can do? Because that is where that holistic development is happening, right? So the child, the teachers, the parents, the society, right? If we can all work together, of course, we have, yes, the healthcare providers and things like that. Then, yes, we are producing that individual for tomorrow. Yes.
Thanks, Manjari. I wouldn't want to let you go. One last question. I apologize for that, for taking extra time. One last question. I'd like you to give a suggestion to all those children who are facing a broken home, because now the rate of divorce has increased many folds, from the newlyweds, to the grey
Sure,
divorces, right? I
sure,
mean, all of
sure.
them. Yeah. So there are
Yeah,
little children who are facing the breakup of their parents, the adolescents. You're even having uh, children in their 20s and 30s who are witnessing the separation of their parents.
sure, sure.
It could be a divorce or a mutual separation, etc. What is the message to all the children who see their parents separating at one point or the other in their lives?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I do see children. Actually, I've had as young as 2.5 or 3-year-old child in a custody battle between mother and father, and I had to see this child and do the necessary assessment and give a report based on which the court decides the child has to be with mom or dad or whatever. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation when you look at me, and when people ask me, I have actually explained this to them. I think dealing with death would be easier to some extent compared to a divorce, because, and I'm seeing this happening, both the mother comes and says something, father comes and says something. Yes, it's a battle, it's a war between the two parties, and the child is the sandwich between the two. So why I'm saying this is because the child has to adapt to mom's style, dad's style. If there are other people in the family, other styles, so it becomes like multiple parenting, and the child is adjusting to each parent, and this is happening maybe in a week, 3 days, 4 days, weekends. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you not doing this? It's like, oh my God, it's so difficult. So then comes blaming themselves. Oh, this happened because of me. Because this is the message that constantly the parents are putting into the child's head, saying that it's because of you that this happened. It's because of you that we split. It's because of you that we had arguments. Poor child. What is the child doing in all these things? Right? But the message that I want to give to the child or the children or the adolescents is that, first of all, it's not your mistake that your parents are separating. If your parents are separating, The help is still available. If you are feeling lost, if you are feeling emotionally disturbed, if your friends are making fun of you, it's not your fault. And it's okay to have this type of lifestyle because this is what your parents chose. But what do you want to choose? You decide, right? So it is your life that you have to decide. Do you want to go on like this, or do you want to be a strong person? Because again, we are humans, the genes, the psyche, right? So when I grow up, how am I going to be as a partner? If it's a male, again, how am I going to be to my partner? Because it's an automatic thing, it's an automatic response, because I'm learning from the environment, right? I have seen my mother cry, but she put up with my father, example, right? And I have seen my father, and yeah, he used to come home drunk once in a while. He used to beat my mother. He was verbally abusive, but well, they were together. It is happening, right? So the message is you have to stay strong. Uh, there is help available, okay? The genes, yes, to some extent, yes, it can have an influence, emotions and all those things, but I think we can still make it happen.
Thank you, Manjari ma'am, for sharing all of that. I had a good time. It was very therapeutic for me as well, conducting the show. And I'm sure the people who view this and listen to this entire podcast definitely will get something out of it and feel much better after listening to this podcast. Thank you so much, Manjari. I would love to see you more on the platform to share much more. And I love the smile that you have on your face, the confidence with which you carry out yourself. And I'd love many people to connect with you for the good work that you are doing, irrespective of geographical locations. You can connect with Manjari ma'am either offline or online. If you're in Malaysia, you can connect with her offline. And if you're in some other part of the world, you can connect with her online. We'll share her description details or maybe her details in the description when we share this video.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Manjari.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I enjoyed talking to you. Thank you, everybody, and I hope it was helpful to you. Thank you. Good night.
Many thanks, ma'am. Thank you so much. Stay connected and stay blessed.
Thank you. Bye.
So, dear friends, with this, we come to an end now to the International Fab Talks for today. Do share this video with the right kind of people. All of them have a message. People from all segments of the society have a message, especially the family members. They do have a message in this to take and to change their life for the better or to have a transformation in their thought process and to be the better versions of themselves. With this, we'd like to sign off now from the International Fab Talks. If you like what we are doing as a team, stay connected with us. Like, comment, subscribe, and share to the International Fab Talks. Above all, prioritize peace, psychological health, your well-being, your emotions, and all of it. Take good care of yourself and as well as take care of your family members. And don't forget to even take care of the environment. With this, we'd like to sign off. Stay connected and stay blessed. Thank you, dear.